Hey folks, Jonathan here. I just want to say a few things before we get started here. Got a few things I want to get done today, but I wanted to say, I understand there's a lot of people that don't have much faith in an old rusty car like this. There's, something that's this far gone. But, there's actually a market for stuff like this. And it may not be a huge market, and it may not be a big, giant, profitable market, but it's still a market. And I'm going to give you an example of that because we're getting ready to go pick up the 31 Ford 5-window coupe that I bought along with this car. And my goal is to get this here and get it sort of stabilized where it won't get any worse than what it is, and then move on to the other. Haven't decided for sure what how far I'm going to go on this at all. It may be as far as it's going to go. We may do some metal work on it. We may chop the top on it. It's hard to say, but it won't be right now or anytime real soon. It's just like the 56 Dodge we put on the frame. When we're going to sit this aside, if I sell it and somebody comes by and gets it, great. If not, no big deal. Now, I'm sure there's a whole lot of people laughing when I say when I sell it. But to give you an example, the car that I'm getting ready to go pick up, I don't know if you noticed when I done the video before, there's some numbers on that car in chalk. The reason being, I bought that car at auction. You'll see how rough it is. There's no floors. And now this was the first time I bought it, which was, years back. I paid $800 for that car. And I know a lot of people would think a man would be fool to pay $800 for it, but I put it on market for $1,500. I sold it for $1,300. So, that was the profit was $500 on it. So now I bought that car back as a package deal because, the guy had just decided to, he wasn't going to have time to do anything with them, which is not a big deal. Basically, I bought this one to recoup the money that I paid for both of them, and so when I sell this one, I won't be into the other one for anything. And and I totally understand that a lot of people don't see an end result or an end product of something like this. Like I said from the beginning, this would definitely be a rat rod car. I don't see this car as ever coming back as an original because there's so much stuff missing. There's not everything's burned away, but like somebody said, it is a blank canvas. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's already been truck needs a little brake work. There's a lot of stuff that's already been stripped because of the fire that we won't have to mess with. But windows it's all flat glass. You're gonna probably chop the top anyway. The roof can be dealt with. I don't even see it as being an issue because you're gonna cut a roof out of something like that van, or a burnt van, or a wagon, or even a minivan, and you're gonna replace that anyway and make it solid. But to give you an idea of what I would do with this, if I was to go ahead and start on the metal work, this is how I would start. Of course, I'd get the alignment right first. The center of this car is bowed down, and once you got that alignment right, start stabilizing this top, starting with this bar or this piece, and actually get it welded into the front, and make sure your distance right so your door gaps are right. Once you get it all straight, reinforce inside of this from front all the way to back to keep this from moving. Once you get this as a lined up piece, you could even weld the door shut or weld some braces in between so nothing moves. And once you get everything aligned where you want it, then you start going in and bracing, stabilizing, making sure that it's not going to go anywhere. Redoing the floor, adding some bracing in, whatever you need to do to keep this body straight where it needs to be. And then these panels here are about as simple as a panel you'll ever replace. Cut it off, rebend the bottom, wrap it around, rebend the ends, weld it up. You got one long weld there and a few spot welds, and that's quick and easy. You don't have to buy that steel. There's plenty of junk cars you can cut the piece out of. Trunk lid, hood, roof. So, you know, everybody says time and money. Well, it's more time than it is money. You know, you're not buying a bunch of new parts, and you know, you're not putting as much money into something like this as you think if you know, you're willing to do the work yourself, and if you're able to do the work yourself. And I think most everybody's able. They just got to get up and do it. You know, the first tractors I brought home, I bought 3 Fordson tractors, and my wife seen them and was about to kill me. And this was, you know, 30 years ago, or going on 30 years ago. And one of them, actually the one I fixed, was halfway in a pond. It took me 4 sets of rear steel wheels to build one set. That's how rusted the wheels were. But it was an old steel wheel tractor. So completely redone it. Ended up taking it to shows and taking it to plow days, and ended up selling it to somebody down in Georgia. They come and bought it. And you know, that was sort of an eye-opener for her. And now when she looks at something like this, she it don't bother her a bit, because she knows that something can be done with it, because I've done it over and over and over through the years. And this body here is actually way more solid than a lot of stuff that I had started with years ago. I mean, this is you know, 15-20 years ago this would have been a gift. I mean, this is something else in comparison to what I've started with. I actually dug a car up one time, and not to bore you to death with stories, but I actually dug a car up, as in it was a Roadster, a 31 Ford Roadster, and it was buried in the dirt up to here and rusted. Well, I thought and assumed that that you know, there was nothing below it, and I started digging, and I actually dug the whole entire floor pan, everything up, and the rust was a space about like this all the way down. Everything below it underground was still good. And so that car was put back together. That car was is down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, riding around, and it's actually a nice car. So, you know, don't think that something like this is not, you know, repairable. This is a really good foundation to start with. In comparison to a lot of stuff I started with, this is really good. Let's go get the other car. I think I can roll the bed right back on top of the bank there and just winch it up. Yeah. And we'll try to leave the body on the frame, and just we'll just take them fenders off. Yeah. Alright, we got her stuck in a hole here until we can figure out what's going to happen. But maybe she won't rust away now anyway. Alright folks, we got the front end back together on the Hummer. New axle and steering knuckle, bunch of parts. But anyway, got to take it and get the front end lined up on it. And possibly price this fiberglass piece that goes down through. That's the only real damage on it. And get it cleaned up. Noah's working on the inside of it right now. So anyway, let's find something real to work on. Let Noah work on this junk.
Okay folks, I was doing some measuring, and it looks like that this would probably be a whole lot better car with that body. And the reason I say that, we can move it forward. We're going to have more leg room. It's going to add about 5 inches of length where I could put the back of the seat. But not only that, I think I could, this thing's lowered down so low. If you look, the hinge, the bottom of the door is right below it. On that car, there's another 6 inches or more below the hinge. So they've cut these doors off short. So it wouldn't be a problem to do on the other one either, but I don't like the way that they've got these floors so low. And then they got, looks like 3/4 plywood in the floor. So this is the first time I've pulled this back, and I can see the shifter. I didn't realize that they had the hole out. You can see that what they've got for a shifter hooked up and running over. And that's the reason that this thing's so aggravating to shift. So if we change this out, what we was going to do is put the 5-speed in. It's going to move the shifter over to the center and back farther when we get the body farther forward. So that would actually be a lot better setup. And we can bring our pedals back a little bit this way, and that would actually give us a lot more room for our feet up there. So we can make this into a lot nicer car. Well, I say a lot nicer, a nicer car, because this is pretty hacked up the way they done some of this stuff. I don't know where they bought the frame or ordered the frame or somebody else built it for them. The frame, the suspension work and stuff, in comparison to how this floor and stuff's built and the subframe, you know, there's real no comparison. This is some pretty shoddy work in a lot of spots. And there's good stuff and then there's bad stuff. It does have a 2-stage master cylinder, but it would be a good car to rip apart and fix right and put a decent body on it. And I'm not saying that is a decent body, but it can be. But I'll show you one of the deals. Well, one thing is this would have to be moved all the way up to close up that extra gap, which wouldn't be an issue. That would actually be a whole lot better. And the way the clutch pedal is set up, the way the brake master cylinder and stuff, it'd be really easy to move forward. The steering, it wouldn't be a big issue to change that, because you can leave it right where it's at. Just, you know, change the hole in the firewall a little bit. But I'll show you what I'm talking about on this car here, of what they have actually done on that car. The bottom of the doors only go to here, so they actually cut them doors off, as you can see, and then they've got a panel below it, and then they've lowered the cowl down, and they've done that, and then they have taken and raised the floors. They've actually just channeled the body over the frame a long ways, and that's why that car sits so low. I can do the same thing, but I think I can get rid of an inch or two, probably an inch and a half, I'm going to say. I can lower that floor over what they have it and still have room. Doing away with this, cutting this down a little bit. I don't think the frame runs that tall. No, see, the frame is lower, quite a bit lower, and they've just gotten this built up for the floor pan, and I think that this should be lowered a little bit. Instead of having a flat floor, if we needed to, we could hump it in the center just a little bit to go, you know, for the transmission stuff. I just think we can make a whole lot better car out of it, with a lot more room to drive, a lot more user friendly, let's put it that way. And this car with the wooden floor and wooden seats and all, it ain't a good thing to let it get rained in either. So, but it was getting rained in from the guy I got it from, and it's still getting rained in, and I would just rather have a body on it and make it look a little better than what it looks. So we'll decide what we're going to do for sure. I hadn't made no 100% decisions, but just remember, you know, a lot of people looked inside that Studebaker with the, you know, the floors rusted out and the springs in the seats and all that stuff, and, you know, basically was either overwhelmed or, you know, thought, well, it's a junk car. And then now the inside's like, you know, about like new. And you know, don't underestimate what, you know, if somebody wants to do something, what they can actually do. And I'm not saying I can do anything any better than anybody else. I'm just saying that I'm pretty relentless when it comes to, you know, if it's something that I want to do, I can do it. And I think everyone should be that way. But I think this would make a good donor. I mean, we could actually cut the doors off and then just do away with part of the bottom section of this completely. And that would be that much less work to deal with. We can hammer and dolly this stuff out. You know, one of the main things is going to be getting this, the width on this trunk, and go on and start getting, you know, some bracing welded in so we can get this body solid. Once it's solid and straight, and then, you know, where it needs to be, then it's, you know, it's not an issue to go from there and, you know, build from it. And believe it or not, they sell just about every part you see there. It's just would be expensive to buy the stuff. And I mean, they sell lower door patch panels, they sell lower patch panels for here, the inner patch panels for here, but I mean, we're not buying. You know, if we was going to buy, then we wouldn't even be messing with this junk. But I like rusty junk, and I just don't mind trying to bring it back. So anyway, just hang with me here. We're actually going to set this aside. I'm not going to do anything right yet. We're going to go ahead and get back on the Studebaker floors and the interior on the Studebaker. Golden Hawk. I don't have nearly as many views on them kind of videos as what I do these videos, but you know, if I ever turn this YouTube deal into work, then I'm probably going to quit. So as long as I'm not considering it as work and I'm doing what I want to do, then I'll keep making videos. But the only way I'm going to be able to do what I want to do is if I work on what I want to work on, when I want to work on it. And because if not, it turns into a job, and I don't need another job. I've got one of them, so running wreckers. So anyway, appreciate everybody watching, and you know, we'll see what we're going to do, but we'll get back on this Golden Hawk. I want to get it together where I can drive it a little bit also. So, all right, appreciate it. Bye.